friends. In this video, I'm going to show you the first chord progression that I show every single one of my beginner students in their first lesson. But I'm also going to explain to you why I use this progression and why it can be beneficial to you even if you don't happen to be a beginner player. So what we're going to be using as a vehicle in this is a 1-6-4-5 progression in the key of C, which means we are going to play the chords C, A minor, F, and G7. Now, if you've been playing the uke for a month or so, you're probably familiar with all of these chords, but I might be using slightly different voicings than you are used to using for this. Now, the main reason I use this progression is it's a very, very common progression, especially across American popular music, 1950s and 60s or so. We see this. So if you learn this one progression, you're really learning hundreds of songs at one time. All of these chords are used in many other chord progressions, so they're great to just start off your chord vocabulary with. But the other reason comes down to the way that we voice these chords and the way that we finger these chords. That's really what's important here. So we're going to be starting off on a C major chord, which will be our standard root position, which you've probably played many times before. Open, 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 3. Now note that I'm using my ring finger on the 3rd fret to catch this C on the A string. I want you to make sure that you are using that finger, and it's going to be important in just a minute. We're going to do 4 beats on each one. You can just do 4 down strums. Our next chord is an A minor chord. Many of you are probably used to playing A minor like this, 2, open, 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 where you sub out A minor 7th and just play everything totally open. But what I want you to do now is keep this 3rd finger right where it is, and we're going to put our 2nd finger down on the 2nd fret of our G string on that A right there, and that's going to be our A minor chord. Our A minor chord and our C both contain this C right here. This is a common tone between the two chords, so we can keep it down, and it serves a few purposes here. The first purpose is that we don't have to move as much. Instead of lifting up a finger and putting down a finger, all we're doing is putting down a finger. So it's one less step that we have to worry about when changing chords. Secondly, it's a little less jarring to the ear because we're not jumping from that C down to the A. It's a subtle difference, but listen to this. Here it is with our normal A that we would play, and then I'll play the A minor that I'd like you to play in a second. So here's C to A minor. And here's C to A minor by just leaving the 3rd finger down. And note this common tone just smooths out the transition a little bit. Still hearing an A minor, but there's less movement there. We're really accentuating the commonalities between the chords. Now, third, what this does is on high G-tuned ukes, especially at lower price points, sometimes the intonation isn't perfect. And by playing 2 identical notes, 2 A's on the outer strings at the same time, they can sometimes make the chord sound out of tune. And this mitigates that, so we don't have to worry about that, because we don't want to worry about little intonation issues when we're just starting to play. We just want the chord to sound good. So this is an easier way to get it in tune, even if your intonation's a little bit off on your uke. We don't have those 2 unison notes fighting each other. So you go from this C for 4 beats, and we're put down the 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the G string for 4 beats. And now we're going to go to an F major chord. F major shares 2 common tones with A minor, which are A, which we already have down on the 2nd fret of our G string, and a C, which we already have down on the 3rd fret of our A string. So we're going to keep everything right where it is, and we're just going to put our 1st finger on the 1st fret of our E string, and that's going to make a nice F major chord. So really what we're doing from the get-go is we're just building an F major chord note by note. C, A minor, and then the 1st finger down. So it's only 1 finger movement each time. We're not worried about jumping around between all of these chords. We have nice, smooth motion between them. Now A minor. And then F, we're just putting down the 1st finger. Now this last chord is the only one that has multiple movements in it at one time, but we still have one of those common tones here, and that's going to be our F. So as we go to a G7th chord, these are the motions I want you to think about. We're not thinking about just hopping to another shape, but how we get to this shape and the movements that are necessary to get us to this position. We're not just thinking about chord shapes. We want to get that out of our mind and think about how we're getting to the next chord. So we're sitting on an F major chord right now. 2, open, 1, 3. And we're going to go to a G7th. What we'll be doing is leaving the first finger right where it is. Our common tone is this F. Our third finger is just going to slide back 1 fret to the 2nd fret, and our second finger is going to hop over 1 string to the 2nd fret of the C string now. So our motion is this, right here. Make sure that you're sliding that third finger. That keeps a great reference point on your uke. We don't need to pick it up and do this. We can just slide it right on back and hop this string over. So you can kind of practice this little exercise itself. So here's what the whole progression will look like. And take special note of the fingers that I'm using to play each of these chords and try to replicate that. Second finger for A minor. First finger for F. Now we're moving a little bit to get that G7th. So you can practice this without even strumming. And think of this almost as like yoga on your uke. We're just getting those finger stretches out of the way and used to it. You can go C, A minor, F. Note we're building that chord, and then this movement to the G7th. And you can just repeat this over and over until our brain knows what to tell our fingers to do to get to the right place. And then we can add in that strumming pattern. We want to make this as smooth as possible with these changes, but it's great to be thinking about these common tones and the movement between chords as opposed to just looking at chord charts and choosing what chords we think we should play in any different voicing. We can find voicings that play nicer together and make these changes a lot easier and also sound better to our ear.